This is the newsroom for today, Thursday, April 22, 2021. We're broadcasting to you on E1 Scar TV, NTN, and Tarzi TV in Bartica. In the headlines, a 25-year-old is gunned down in Charlestown, and the police are on the hunt for the main suspect, known as Biggie. The Ministry of Housing and Water is injecting some $890 million into the Parfaite Harmonie West Bank Demerara community.
There's absolutely no need for us to have continuing informal settlements or squatting.
The month of April is quickly becoming one of the deadliest months for COVID-19 here, as 44 persons have died so far for the month. And in sport, Inter-Guyana Games volleyball tentatively set for September, and Ramdani's siblings to embark on Olympic qualifiers from April 27. With the news, I am Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for joining us. We start off by telling you that a 25-year-old man from Drysdale Street, Charlestown, Georgetown, was on Wednesday night shot dead by another man known to him during an argument. Dead is Odingo Anthony Yearwood. Police have identified the suspect as Lenroy Michael Ford, also known as Biggie. Preliminary information revealed that the incident emanated from a dispute between the two men over an alleged robbery committed by Biggie on a victim who was known to Yearwood. After shooting Yearwood, Ford ran away from the crime scene and a wanted bulletin was issued hours later. Anyone with information that may lead to the arrest of Lenroy Michael Ford is asked to contact the nearest police station. At around 2 hours 30 on Thursday, 7 juveniles escaped from the Sophia Holding Center in Georgetown, but 4 of them have been recaptured already, according to police reports. Newsroom understands that an alarm was raised subsequently, and a quick response from the police led to the recapturing of the 3. Shortly after 7 hours, a 4th juvenile was recaptured and taken back to the facility in the company of his mother. The 3 other juveniles remain at large as the police continue their search. We tell you now that the Georgetown Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the GCCI, on Thursday expressed tremendous concern with what they described as the escalating rate of crime that is occurring in Guyana. A statement from the GCCI noted that the perpetuation of these violent crimes is of great concern to the members of the Chamber, as it directly impacts the welfare of the citizens and enterprises of the country. In particular, the GCCI noted that there seems to be an increasing rate of criminal activities against the business community. This has created an air of fear amongst the community in Ghana, as well as the wider citizenry, the GCCI noted. The GCCI called on the authorities to take stern actions against the criminal elements and ramp up its campaign against crime fighting. The Chamber said it remains willing to assist in any way possible and continues to view itself as a partner in development and nation building. The Ministry of Housing and Water is injecting some $890 million into the Parfaite Harmonie West Bank Demerara community to upgrade 8.8 kilometers of roads and other infrastructure there. Additionally, through funding from the Inter-American Development Bank, several core homes are to be built and over 100 homeowners will receive subsidies. Kurt Campbell reports.
Some 25 core homes are also slated for construction in the Parfaite Harmonie West Bank Demerara community, while 118 families would benefit from the government's housing subsidy. Minister of Housing and Water Colin Crowell made these announcements on Wednesday during an outreach in Region 3, Essequibo Islands, West Demerara. These projects fall under the Inter-American Development Bank IDB Adequate Housing and Urban Accessibility Program. Upgrades to the road will include the construction of pavements, sidewalks, and drain networks. Several streetlights would also be installed and a number of multi-purpose recreational facilities constructed. Minister Crowell said tenders for the project will be out by May and works should commence by July.
This year alone, there will be $800 million being injected, a minimum of $800 million that will be injected into the Parfaite Harmonie community for a number of roads for their upgrade, as well as for a number of pavements and the drain network where those roads will be done. And so those roads will be targeting our low-income area that we have in our structure.
Meanwhile, the Core Homes project will see the construction of houses for persons in the low-income bracket who have been allocated house lots. The 4,000 square feet concrete structures will include 2 bedrooms and indoor toilet and bath. The housing subsidy program will also benefit families who have completed the process.
So under the same Adequate Housing and Urban Accessibility Program, we also have the Core House Program as well as the Home Subsidy. So benefiting here too And when the advertisements go out, you will see the guidelines. We are expecting to probably for this year be able to construct about 25 core houses in Parfaite Harmonie, for which the beneficiaries will be persons who have been allotted, and there are certain guidelines for which we have to get the IDB's no objection.
Back in March, the Central Housing and Planning Authority had invited tenders for the construction of core homes in Sophia. In his budget presentation earlier this year, Minister Crowell had announced that 50 families in Sophia and another 50 at Parfaite Harmonie would benefit from the core homes support. Another 100 families in those communities will also benefit from home improvement subsidies. Additionally, the minister said the Ministries of Public Works and Local Government and Regional Development are collaborating with the Regional Democratic Council to assess and address road issues in the community.
We tell you now that 3 more persons who tested positive for COVID-19 died on Wednesday, taking the country's death toll since March 2020 to 276. The latest fatalities are 3 males, a 42-year-old from Region 6 East Berbice Quarantine, a 76-year-old from Region 4 Demerara Mahaika, and a 70-year-old from Region 5 Mahaika Berbice. They all died while receiving care at a medical facility. This takes the death toll for April to 44, making it one of the deadliest months for COVID-19 here since the pandemic hit these shores. In March 2021, a total of 36 patients died, while in October 2020, 44 persons succumbed to the disease. Now, Guyana has now given more than 100,000 people their first dose of one of the 3 COVID-19 vaccines. During his daily COVID-19 briefing on Thursday, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony highlighted that there have been no recorded incidents of blood clots.
We were satisfied that when we used it in Guyana, we did not have any cases of blood clotting, and we have been monitoring for these cases. So we are very pleased with the results that we have had with these vaccines so far, and we'll continue to use them. So many of the persons who received the first dose would be due for their second dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine maybe in a month's time, and we encourage them to come and take their second dose.
The World Health Organization, the WHO, and the European Medicines Agency have concluded that the benefits of the vaccines outweigh the risks associated. More recently, the WHO, in reviewing the latest evidence on the blood clots, noted that a very rare new type of adverse event which involved unusual and severe blood clotting events associated with low platelet counts has been reported after vaccination with 2 AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccines. Housing Minister Colin Crowell tells Bell West residents there is no need for squatting, and the lack of key resources is aiding illegal and unregulated fishing in Guyana's waters. Those and more when the newsroom returns. This is the Newsroom. Promising direct intervention to address the issue of informal settlements and squatting across the country, the Minister of Housing and Water, Colin Crowell, on Wednesday assured that the PPPC government is addressing the issue as it remains resolute that no citizen should be living under such conditions. The minister was at the time meeting with residents of the Bell West West Bank Demerara community, where he made a commitment to frontally address the issue. Details in this report.
The Central Housing and Planning Authority also has mandate to deal with informal structures, informal settlements, or in layman language we can say squatting, and to address it. And why did I start off by telling you our plans, our long-term plan? Because there's absolutely no need, and I'm very clear of this in my head, there's absolutely no need for us to have continuing informal settlements or squatting. Here in Bell West, you've had your fair share, and we intend to address it. And so as part of my mandate as the Minister of Housing and Water is also to look at these aspects, because communities cannot develop if we have a parallel implementation or a parallel structure or program ongoing that is outside of what is approved by the state.
That was Minister of Housing and Water Colin Crowell while meeting with residents of Bell West, West Bank Demerara on Wednesday. A report by the Community Development Council states that there are over 70 families occupying lands in the Bell West community without proof of ownership. Minister Crowe said the names of those individuals are already in the Central Housing and Planning Authority's system and they would receive assistance. He cautioned, however, that any additional illegal settlement will be tolerated. With a massive road development network soon to come on stream, Minister Crowe said there will also be new land openings in Region 3. He said the many spin-off benefits from that project will impact the housing sector.
We intend, therefore, to address the issue frontal. And I hope you hear me very clearly. We cannot further shy away from dealing with the matter or dealing with the issue. Because you are further affected, whoever are there, you are further affected, and also from our perspective, you also make your request. And we want, as Chairman said too, we want to see betterment of your lives. That's all we work for every day. That is what we elect the government to do.
This year, the government will spend $14 billion in infrastructure development countrywide.
As part of its Earth Month activities, the U.S. Embassy in Georgetown on Wednesday hosted a virtual discussion on illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing in the nation's sea space. The discussion brought to the fore that Guyana is presently not in a position to effectively monitor this issue due to a severe lack of resources. More in this report from Shakima Day.
Because of a lack of resources to effectively monitor Guyana's waters and the inability to record data from fisherfolk, authorities are currently unable to quell the challenge of illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing. This topic was put on the front burner on Wednesday during a virtual discussion hosted by the U.S. Embassy in Georgetown as part of its Earth Month virtual series. According to Lieutenant Commander David Shamsuddin, Executive Officer of the Coast Guard, Guyana's coastline is approximately 270 nautical miles, with an exclusive economic zone covering 200 nautical miles. Altogether, he explained, Guyana has a sea space of 54,000 square nautical miles, which presents a major difficulty to patrol.
That is one of our challenges. The vessels that we are equipped with probably can take us just over our territorial waters. When we look at the general areas that these illegal fishing occurs, is way beyond our territorial waters. So yes, one of our main challenges is to have those assets that can reach that far out to get to the fishing activities.
He noted that the government is working to acquire offshore patrol vessels to aid effective monitoring. Presently, Lieutenant Commander Shamsuddin said that the Coast Guard can only monitor vessels within 12 nautical miles. Meanwhile, Denzel Roberts, the Chief Fisheries Officer at the Ministry of Agriculture, reported that there is no real way to measure the gravity of illegal, unreported and unregulated fishing in Guyana.
Well, when we look at illegal fishing, when the Commander Best would have made that statement, he would have referred to international vessels in Guyanese waters. We know we as a coastal state, our neighbors, we have our neighbors to the west and the east, and even some other countries nearby. They'll tend to maybe fish in our waters. However, the thing is we don't have evidence, as in the volume of an illegal fishing happening in our waters. Our problem is because of the wide expanse of the maritime zone. It's very difficult, and we have the Lieutenant Commander Shamsuddin here who would be able to explain more. But it's very difficult to monitor what's going on out there. We would hear stories about different vessels speaking different languages and those things, but there is no evidence.
He said that from the Fisheries Department side, it has a vessel monitoring system for industrial fleets like trawlers and larger vessels. However, the problem stems from the monitoring of artisanal vessels. In the interim, government is working to acquire offshore patrol vessels to aid effective monitoring. For the Newsroom, I am Shakima Day.
The United States Secretary of State on Wednesday met virtually with foreign ministers from the Caribbean Community CARICOM to demonstrate the United States' commitment to working with all countries in the region to advance bilateral and regional interests.
Foreign ministers from Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, the Commonwealth of Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, Haiti, St. Lucia, St. Kitts and Nevis, Suriname, and Trinidad and Tobago participated in the event, along with the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. A brief statement issued by the U.S. State Department noted that Secretary Blinken emphasized the strong partnership between the United States and the Caribbean, plans to manage the COVID-19 pandemic and promote a regional economic recovery, cooperation on increasing climate resilience, and continued collaborations on strengthening security, democratic values, and human rights. Meanwhile, the newsroom spoke with Guyana's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, UTOD, via telephone shortly after the meeting on Wednesday. He said the meeting served basically as an introduction between CARICOM foreign ministers and the Secretary of State of the United States of America.
It was basically a U.S. CARICOM engagement between the foreign ministers, and this is something that is not new. Given the fact we have new administration, Secretary of State wanted to take the opportunity to meet with all of the foreign ministers within CARICOM.
Offering further details on the discussion, which lasted for almost 2 hours, the Guyanese foreign minister said his presentation was on the topic of regional energy security.
I delivered remarks on behalf of the government, where I focus a lot on cooperation between the United States and Guyana at the policy level, which should be able to give way for not only investments in oil and gas, alternative energy, but also for financing from the RFIs.
To this end, the foreign minister noted that there are several policy initiatives and established mechanisms already in place, and that it is through engagements like these that the United States will help the causes. Todd said brief mention was made of Guyana's border controversy with Venezuela and the ongoing volcano disruption in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And joining Todd in the virtual meeting was Foreign Secretary Robert Prasad and the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Ambassador Elizabeth Harper.
Did you get infected with COVID-19 after taking your first dose of the vaccine? Join us after the break to find out what you can do. This is the Newsroom. Health Minister Dr. Frank Anthony is advising that if an individual is infected with the disease COVID-19 after receiving their first dose of the vaccine, that person should wait until fully recovered before getting the second jab.
So because we're using different vaccines, it would have to be specific to the different vaccines and the time period in which you might have gotten your infection. So let's say hypothetically, you have your first dose, you're due for your second dose after 28 days, but you, for whatever reason, you got COVID 2 days after you got the vaccine. It would mean that we have to wait until you have recovered, which generally in the mild cases would take about 10 days. So you would still be within the time frame to get your second dose, because you would have completed your recovery between when you got your first dose and when you were due for your second dose. If, however, having received your first dose, and let's say maybe on day 20, for whatever reason you got infected, then that 10 days to recovery, from exposure to recovery, would take you beyond the original 28 days interval between the two doses. And in that case, what we would advise is that people wait until they have recovered fully, and then you come for your second dose.
Now, Guyana has begun the process of improving its detection of and response towards natural and man-made hazards by assessing its current multi-hazard early warning system. This assessment is being conducted by the Civil Defense Commission in partnership with the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Climate Risk and Early Warning Systems Initiative.
So we will not be starting from scratch when it comes to implementing national early warning system. So the assessment being done over the next couple of weeks to get a more comprehensive picture of where we are, what we need to do, and how we are going to implement the roadmap. And this will include, I presume, some amount of budgeting or finance that's required to implement the various activities. Any early warning system should encompass, first and foremost, understanding the hazards. We should also strive to ensure that technology is involved and also the use of local methods to ensure the messages reach all the beneficiaries in a timely manner to ensure that there is response.
Regional Technical Coordinator, Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, Daniel Evanson, also explained that this assessment will enable the relevant authorities to analyze where there are gaps in Guyana's system and subsequently make recommendations on how they can be improved. Discussions on improving this system will continue next week. When the newsroom returns, the financial, weather and bridge reports along with sport. Welcome back to Newsroom. Now for a look at what's happening in sport. We start things off with some cricket news. The Chief Executive Officer of Cricket West Indies, Johnny Graves, said he's upbeat about the South Africa series happening in the Caribbean in June. Cricket South Africa is facing an intervention from the country's sport minister after failing to agree on a memorandum of incorporation that will set out the blueprint for a majority independent board. In real terms, it could impact South Africa's schedule, which is currently scant but should next see a man's tour to the West Indies in June. However, Graves, speaking on the Mason and Guest radio show, expressed optimism that the tour could go ahead even in the midst of a global pandemic.
I can't stress enough how difficult organising international cricket is at the moment. I think we all want to forget that we're in a global pandemic because we've been in it so long, but the challenges for Cricket South Africa to get here to the Caribbean are untold. We think we've got a solution to that now, to at least get them into the region. They've only got one route they can come, which is via Paris and St. Martin. They're not allowed at the moment under global rules. They're a red zone country, so therefore they cannot fly via the UK, they cannot fly via the US. And at this stage, we're still talking about governments because we need government's approvals to host them. So I'm confident that the tour will take place as planned, 2 test matches and 5 T20s in June. And we're working morning, noon and night to bring that to fruition. But we're not in a position yet to confirm exactly where the tour will take place and exactly when the schedule of matches are. But hopefully we're coming to the end of those discussions with South Africa, and hopefully by the end of the month we'll be in that position to confirm all the details.
Do you have any doubts at all in the back of your mind that it may not come off, Johnny?
Again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know how if another volcano is going to explode. I don't know if planes are going to stop being chartered, whether there's going to be a new strain or a third, fourth, fifth, whatever. These are unprecedented times, Andrew, but as best as I can give you now, as I sit here in Antigua, I would say the tour is on.
Now, the Guyana Volleyball Federation is eyeing September to possibly host an Inter-Guyana Games Senior Club Championship, according to its president, Levi Ned. Akeem Green reports.
The championship was to be held in 2020, but the pandemic derailed such plans. However, there is some optimism from the president that should the situation improve, they can host the event late in the year at a national gymnasium or an outdoor facility.
In the pipeline, we do have a tournament to be hosted here, the Inter-Guyana Senior Club Championship. We were supposed to host it just before the COVID came and it fell through, but it's still in the pipeline to be hosted, where we'll be having 2 female teams from Suriname, a female team from French Guyana, 2 female teams from Guyana, and male team from each of the Guyanas. And that would have been a good weekend to have that goodwill tournament, but because of the COVID, it was shelved. So we do have things in train to facilitate that. We do have things in train. We're also looking to bring a Trinidad team, and we were hoping that at the time when we have this Inter-Guyana is that we could have invited a club from Brazil, because Brazil has the standards as it is, and they are termed as our big brothers. So if we could have brought them along, you know, that would have raised the standard. But because of COVID, everything is on postponement, sort of. Everything is shelved.
Ned said there are enough facilities to host regional tournaments in Guyana, and the current upgrades only benefit further.
Yes, we have the facility there, and they're presently upgrading it. We are assured by the minister that in due time, we'll have the facility. Right now, what we had to do, we had to timetable the clubs in Demerara for the use of that facility, and also facilitate to be able to facilitate national training at the gymnasium there. So that's in the pipeline too.
According to Ned, there is a need for more facilities, but one of their biggest issues stems from a lack of equipment. They are also toying with the idea of hosting a two-a-side beach tournament as preparation for a tournament in French Guyana. For the newsroom, Akim Green.
Now, student athletes Narayan Ramdani and Priyana Ramdani are faced with a busy schedule over the next 2 weeks as they embark on the Tokyo Olympic qualifiers. More in this report. The siblings, who are Guyana's top players in their respective categories, are currently on scholarship at King's University and Olds College in Canada. They will both attend the Pan Am Individual Championship in Guatemala from April 27 to May 2, the Guyana Badminton Association said in a press statement on Wednesday. Narayan will play to get the necessary qualification points to attend the Tokyo 2020 Olympic Games, and at the Pan Am Championship, he will play in the singles elimination round of 64, where he was awarded a bye and got into the round of 32. Priyana will play to get her qualification points to attend the Cali South American Youth Games, and at the Pan Am Championship, she will play in the singles elimination round of 32. They both will also team up in the mixed doubles in the draw of 32. Due to the pandemic, the pair had been out of competitive action for the last year, and the Guyana Badminton Association is hoping they can secure valuable qualification points in the upcoming tournaments. The Badminton Association said, and I quote, "Because of the pandemic, they were exposed to limited training as some venues were restricted and had to be worked around when they could get on court. This sometimes means they had to travel for 2 hours, train for 2 hours, and travel back for 2 hours twice a week." End quote. The Guyana Badminton Association expressed thanks to the Sport Minister Charles Ramson Jr., the Guyana Olympic Association President K.A. Jumanyasin, Dr. Yesu Prasad of Demerara Bank, Mohammed's Enterprise, and GBA Executive Ayana Watson for making it possible for the two players to attend the event. IPL news now. Devdutt Padikkal hit an unbeaten 101 as Royal Challengers Bangalore thrashed Rajasthan Royals by 10 wickets in the Indian Premier League. The 20-year-old's innings came off just 52 balls as RCB reached their target of 178 with 3.3 overs to spare. The captain Virat Kohli, who scored 72 not out, also became the first man to reach 6,000 IPL runs. Earlier, Royals posted 177 for 9 from 20 overs, with Shivam Dubey scoring 46 and Just Butler falling for 8. Top of the table RCB have now won all 4 of their matches in this season's IPL, while the Royals remain second from bottom with a solitary win. IPL action continues on Friday with Mumbai Indians playing Punjab Kings from 10 hours in Chennai. And Bangladesh had another excellent day in Kandy in the first test against Sri Lanka before early end to the day's play due to bad light. Bangladesh ended the day on 474 for 4. The Tigers started the day with an overnight score of 302 for 2. Two unbeaten batsmen, Najmul Hussain Shanto and Mominul Haq, batted through the first session without trouble. Together they had 242 for the third wicket, which is now the highest ever for Bangladesh in test matches. Shanto looked well set for a double hundred, but unfortunately got out for an 163 by Lahiro Tiramani. Mominul, on the other hand, picked up his 11th century, being dismissed for 127 before the tea break. Then Mushfiqur Rahim and Liton Das paired up to bat for the rest of the day. There was a little break-up for rain before bad light finally forced the umpires to call off play for the day. Mushfiqur was not out on 43 and Liton Das on 25. And with that, we've come to the end of the news for this evening. Of course, you can find updates on these and other stories on our website, Newsroom.gy, our Facebook page and Instagram. On behalf of the entire news team, my name is Avinash Ramzan. Thanks for watching. Be safe. See you next time.